This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our weekly board chair check-in and update meeting. My name is Marie Newton, and I will be moderating this call. In order to avoid background noise, I ask that you please mute yourself if you're not speaking. However, you can unmute yourself if you would like to ask a question, or you can type it into the chat box. If you're calling in from your cell phone, please take a moment to physically mute your cell phone, as I'm unable to mute you from my computer unless I mute all participants. This is a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be archived on CABE's website under services. Thank you.
Well, I guess I'll start off. It's Bob Rader, and I hope everybody's healthy and safe. We're not surprised that a number of our usual people aren't on the call. We just hope they're safe. We understand how many don't have power. I was lucky we got it at 5:15 yesterday, but we know so many are still without power. And what we're going to do today is enable Patrice to give a few updates. I may add to that. We talked to the commissioner yesterday. She's also got a document she wants to talk about and share with you. And we just appreciate all the work that you're doing in your communities, as well as even Will Marie has no power at home, had to go to her mother's house to do this, and we very much appreciate that. The CABE office has no email ability at this time. The cable is down, so we don't know when it'll be back up again. Patrice, I'll give the phone numbers of people. Patrice had the idea of providing phone numbers to everybody because of in case people want to get together. I know I sent it this morning. I'm looking for it now. I'm having trouble finding it. Here it is. So if you want to get in touch with me, I will do my best. If you needed to talk to somebody else, to get in touch with them on the staff, I'm at 860-712-4749. And that's not just in case of an emergency. If you ever have to get in touch with me or the staff quickly, feel free to call. Patrice is at 860-712-7665. Sheila is at 860-712-4750. And Nick is at 860-655-3631. That's the ones I have. Their phones are CABE phones, so if you feel you need to get in touch with them, please do. So with that, I'm going to just turn it over to Patrice. She's going to share a little, and then we'll do a CABE share. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. And I want to echo my appreciation for all you're going through as you struggle to reopen, decide what your district plans will be, and try to do that when most of the state still doesn't have power or internet. But a very special thanks to Will Marie. Until an hour ago, we were not certain we could actually connect with you this morning. But through Nick made valiant efforts at the CABE office, and then Will Marie made an outstanding effort to be able to let us talk to you this morning. So the document that Bob referred to, we've gotten a number of questions in the past week about, can boards resume meeting in person? And the answer to that is actually, there was never an executive order that prohibited public meetings. However, the executive orders gave public bodies great flexibility in order to be able to do their business remotely. So some boards have resumed in-person meetings. A number of them feel it's important as they look to returning some students and staff to the school buildings that the board model that for their community. I actually facilitated a retreat that the Darien board had about 2.5 weeks ago, and the Brantford board is having their in-person retreat next week. So it certainly is permissible. What the document that Lisa's going to help me get out to all board chairs, and I think we'll also include the CABE cell phone numbers in that message as well, to try and reach as many of the board chairs as possible. But this memo essentially outlines the things that you should think about as you return to in-person meetings. So obviously, the health and safety protocols, the wearing of masks, trying to set up the room so people are 6 feet apart, and thinking about continuing the opportunity to participate remotely. Many of you will have some board members that are not comfortable coming back into a public setting at this point. And you also have found in many cases that you're getting more community participation than you have before. If someone could mute their phone, that sounds much better. So continuing the virtual opportunity for participation, that also helps you avoid having 50 parents show up at a meeting room that you cannot maintain the appropriate physical distancing. So that's outlined in that memo. We also, yesterday in our conversation with the commissioner, know that there will be guidance coming out from the State Department of Education and the Department of Public Health dealing with what the protocol should be if a student or staff member is diagnosed with COVID or has been in contact with someone with COVID. The notion of the isolation room in the school building, protocols around how long they should be out of the school setting, and information on contact tracing, which would be done by the Department of Public Health and not by the school district. There'll also be additional information around music and the arts. And there was, as of yesterday at least, indication that the governor would be making some commitments around financial support, presumably by the end of this week. Now, I think given the crisis in the utility situation in the state, that could be postponed, but clearly that is something that's coming up on the radar. I think with that, I'll turn it back. Do you have additional comments, Bob or Lisa? And I know Sheila's on the phone as well. All right, then I think we'll move to comments from the board chairs that are on this call. You can vent, you can share what's happening in your household, you can share your challenges around communicating with your public when people are much less connected than they were 3 days ago.
This is Leslie.
Hi, Leslie.
Hi. Something that we haven't talked much about is our business managers. And they find themselves in the position of getting requests that have been approved for spending that obviously we all know is not budgeted for. And hoping and depending on the FEMA money that the municipalities are allowed to apply for. I think the deadline on that is ongoing, from what I understand, unlike the CARES Act, which is the 20th. And the regulations and the information that's out there on the FEMA money, as far as our business manager is concerned, is that it'll be no less than 75% of what is assumed as applicable costs related to COVID. And obviously these expenses are being documented, and they're huge. And it's very difficult to determine whether or not we should start going for appropriations from our financial side of things on the town, from our town council, or wait to see if the town gets reimbursed. And there's this sense that if we keep them informed, I've already started planning for monthly meetings with them to keep them in the loop and where we are. It's a difficult decision. Do we ask for appropriations now and then let them get their reimbursements because it's through the town? Or do we wait and keep our fingers crossed and then end up having this big, large appropriation needed at the end of the year? So we're struggling a little bit with that. And I know business managers are also, because they are very conservative, and it's the first time in their career where people are requesting things that they're buying that aren't budgeted for, and they're not having to go through and determine where it comes from.
Yeah, those are, I think, challenges that every district is sharing, and hopefully when we are able to reschedule the component of the Summer Leadership Institute, which was to have been the Wednesday session, was to have school business officials and school facilities managers on that as that program. So I think we'll have a chance to get more input around that when that is rescheduled. What we have heard on some of the statewide calls with municipal officials that the governor has been having every Wednesday afternoon is that while the expectation was that there would be 75% FEMA reimbursement for eligible expenditures, Connecticut at least got a lot of their expenditures rejected as not eligible. And so the state was working with FEMA to try and remedy that situation. That things that were presumed to be eligible were denied by FEMA. So that's a side issue to what you're asking about. I would think the best advice at this point is to keep in regular communication so that your municipal officials know the types of costs that you're looking at, that they know that you're doing everything you can to control those costs. But probably it would seem to me premature to seek an additional appropriation this early in your budget year, unless in conversations with your municipal officials, that's the way they would rather have you proceed. You probably know at this point that you're going to overexpend by the end of the year your budgeted amount. So I think that's a community by community conversation, but it's great that you've got those lines of communication open.
Thank you.
And I would just add that we know that the school business officials, when there's internet, are in pretty good touch with each other and with CASBO, which is the state organization. Sharon Bruce is the executive director, and she stays on top of it pretty well. So you might, in some cases, want to make sure that your school business official is talking to others and hearing what they're hearing. I see Katie Stein has a question about CIAC going ahead. I would just tell you that, first of all, we're going to have Glenn on next week, Glenn Lungarini, who is the executive director of CAS CIAC. And we heard from him yesterday that there are ongoing talks with many different committees, many different stakeholders. I don't know that there's anything that boards can do at this point. I would just suggest you wait, see what comes out of that next week. We know that the Yukon Huskies football team has decided not to play this year. Very interesting. They sort of left it up to the students, the student athletes. So I don't know exactly where Glenn is at this point, but yes, they did put out a document last week, and they said it's going to be fluid, like everything else that seems to be happening now in education.
Yeah, and I would just add, I think Glenn, on behalf of CAS CIAC, tried to convey that not only will it be fluid as health metrics change, but this was a preliminary document that they put out that they were seeking input from superintendents and others, and that this was not the final recommendation on fall sports. And Deblo comments that she agrees with Katie, it's hard enough to get school up and running, and that she feels that the CIAC timeline is way too aggressive. I would certainly think that the cancellation of UConn football may have a significant influence on how the plan gets modified. And Glenn was also clear that they're looking at individual sports differently. So obviously some, cross country has a different health and safety dynamic than football. Other comments? Venting. Venting is really okay. That's one reason we wanted to make sure that we gave you this opportunity, even in technologically challenging times.
This is Debbie from Wilton. I'm not trying to vent. I'm sorry I joined late, so perhaps you've already discussed this. But our district is zeroing in on starting with a K-12 hybrid model and then reassessing school by school each 3 weeks, and hopefully being able to get K-5 to a full open on the fairly early side. So I'm just wondering where other districts are. That was my question. Thanks.
Can others share where they are?
This is Katrina from New Canaan, and we are looking at basically the same outline, trying to get K-4 up and running back in school by, mid to late September, with other schools to follow if, the metrics continue to support it.
Okay, yeah, that's helpful to know. Thank you.
Senator
Anyone else? Merrill?
Senator Britton, we're doing 2 days on. Wednesday is all distance learning, and a second group on Thursday and Friday. And
For K-12?
K-12, yeah. And trying to figure out the childcare nightmare that is going to be Wednesdays.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be childcare nightmare in general, but Wednesdays with 2 groups needing supervised distance learning, because it is all distance learning, whether you're in school or not. Yeah. Anybody else grappling with that issue of how are working parents going to be able to find childcare for their kids, their elementary school kids?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, it's Tony Perugine in Cheshire. We're hearing from some parents, even teachers. Sometimes we forget our own teachers, especially single parents, have that situation at home where they're expected to be in the classroom. So I know that in regards to our teachers, Superintendent Solon is actually meeting with the teachers union today to go over some of those issues. We're hopeful that with the distance learning we're implementing with a live classroom, some situations that may help, but with a teacher's home trying to do online live learning with the kids behind them, or parents want to work, we don't have an answer. Unfortunately, like other school districts, I don't know what we can do to help those parents that can't be home, other than try and provide a safe environment in school. But yeah, we don't have the answer in that part, unfortunately.
Yeah, the commissioner is well aware of that. He brought up the problem of early childhood. It was specifically in relation to the children of teachers, but certainly he's aware, and the state is trying to work on those issues. Merrill, have you heard anything else on this that, in your other life you can?
Yeah, so there is definitely a great big question about whether or not Care for Kids can be used to pay for school-age kids during school hours. When the rules were written, nobody was thinking about a pandemic where half the kids couldn't be in the building. We're expecting guidance from the Federal Office of Child Care shortly. But then the other fear is that could just completely consume the Care for Kids budget, and there wouldn't be any money left for little kids who it's been the primary source of funding for.
I know on one of our calls, Commissioner Beth Bai indicated that the 211 state line was available to help teachers locate available childcare.
Yeah, it's available for everybody. I know that in Britain, we have been meeting with all of the after-school providers. We're reaching out to the family child care providers, trying to figure out how are we gonna gear up for just the huge child care needs.
Other comments?
Hi, this is Jean from Basra.
Hi, Jean.
Hi, good morning. So we're fortunate in Basra, we have our municipal power company, Basra Light and Power. So most of our town was restored by yesterday late afternoon. We feel very fortunate to be in this part of the state. We did have a lot of damage, but our local power company was very active in getting out there and getting us back online. So that's been really great. We are having a board meeting this evening via Zoom to have a vote of support for a superintendent's plan for a hybrid model. It hasn't been released to the public yet, but given that this venue is just board administrators, I'll just discuss briefly what we're going to do. And we're going to go with a hybrid model where we have 2 cohorts of students. It's a small K-8 school. So we're going to split the children into 2 groups. That'll allow for greater distancing on the buses as well as in the classrooms. And it will also allow us to have room in the school to provide some daycare for the teachers' children as well. And we're going to utilize in-person current staff, paraprofessionals. The details of that are still being finalized by the administration, but I think it'll be a really great option to help keep all of our teachers available for our students if they know that their children who are also going to be distance learning are there with them in the building and are being supervised. So that's the plan we're going to vote on this evening. It's going to be released to the public after the board vote of support tonight.
Terrific. That sounds like a wonderful option that, given the size of your population, you're able to provide.
Thank you.
Patrice?
Yes.
Eileen Baker, how are you?
Hi, Eileen.
I'm just calling in Old Saybrook. They've made a decision to go similar to the last caller, Mondays and Tuesdays for cohort A, Thursdays and Fridays for cohort B, and Wednesdays is for cleaning and distance learning.
Yeah.
And thinking about perhaps returning in October, taking a look at the health statistics first.
Great.
Patrice, this is Sue Davis from Suffield.
Hi, Sue.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
We seem to be doing the same thing, where it's Monday, Tuesday, cohort A, Thursday, Friday, cohort B, and then Wednesday, asynchronous. We are looking at reevaluating in 3 weeks to see if we can move anything. We're struggling with the fact of equity across the schools. I know people are saying, to try to get the younger schools in full-time, or a little bit more in person. But, we in Suffield noticed that our secondary schools had a tail off of involvement with our students on the high, with, middle school and high school. And so, we struggle with the fact that I think those kids also really struggle with in-person learning, remote learning, even though technically they are old enough to handle the independence of it. So we're really struggling with that. And the other thing, I don't know what other people are thinking. We're struggling a little bit. We've been guided by our legal counsel to not vote on the plan, to allow the superintendent that it's operational and that we just support it, so to speak. But I know some of our board members aren't thrilled with that. So it's just interesting to hear what other districts are doing in terms of voting or not voting as well. Thank you.
Yeah, that has been an interesting topic of discussion, that there clearly is no legal requirement that the board actually vote on the plan, and the commissioner has made that clear. Much of the plan is certainly operational, but it is also obviously has a significant fiscal impact, which under normal circumstances, the board would probably be involved in taking a vote. But certainly our message to boards has been, if your board can use this opportunity to voice its support in whatever way, whether a statement, whether a vote, that can be very helpful to your administration that has worked so hard on this. And it can also convey to your community the fact that you trust in what your administration has put forward.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
So in Madison, they're not taking a formal vote, but they will have a presentation of the plan, and the board will express its support. Jean says they're voting to support the plan but not approve it, which again, that is definitely a distinction. Susan, do you want me to read your message in the chat?
I just got muted. I'm late getting on, so I wasn't sure what you were doing. This is Sue Glennon in Milford.
We're sharing.
Okay, so in Milford, we are actually doing our superintendent developed 4 plans. And the one that she is opted for is 100% all students in Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday for a shortened day, except those who opt out and select all distance learning. It's a shortened day for students, full day for staff to allow them to work on their distance learning platform. And then Wednesdays is a full day of distance learning for all. And it'll be a day to allow staff to do a deep clean in the building as well. For reasons for doing this was that there was a lot of concern from parents about mass fatigue, and really she was looking at the social emotional impact and of the fact that kids and staff are coming back to a school building that they're not going to probably recognize after being away for 6 weeks, and it will be 6 months, and it will be so different. So she opted to do this as a measure to ease in, hopefully, to a full 5-day plan, if we can, over the coming weeks. And we did not vote on it either. We had a meeting this past Monday. She's been providing updates at every board meeting and doing a lot of webinars with families, and that the staff has been, given access to. The board's been given access to. But we did not vote, but we shared feedback with her, which, each board member pretty much stated whether they, and out of the 10, 8 clearly supported, well, everyone supports her and supports her decision. We did have 2 board members who feel that school should be all distance for everybody with nobody back in school. So they expressed that opinion, but that's how we handled it in Milford.
Great. Thanks for sharing. Have any of you, and since many of you are having Wednesday as a deep cleaning day, have you, do you know if your district will be needing to hire extra custodial staff in order to accomplish that?
In Milford, initially they said that they would be hiring 2 additional custodians for each school, and understanding though that was when we were assuming everybody would be in full time, when the governor was originally, that's what we thought was going to happen. So what we've done is actually scheduled budget meetings, budget updates for the board, and so the board can address any budgetary impacts. We still have yet to decide how we're going to handle. Normally, the board, we would do transfers between object series, but we don't do them every month. We do them normally we don't do them till the end of the year. You know, the board, and we recognize we'll probably have to do that a little bit more frequently. So I think on coming next, we have a budget meeting set for Monday, this coming Monday. I think we'll have a better handle on the staff, but I mean, I don't think they would necessarily, other than if they still need to hire the 2 additional custodians per school, that would certainly be, that'll be it. We have had parents questioning the rationale of a deep clean. You know, why do you need to close for a deep clean on, you know, isn't the school being deep cleaned all the time? You know, so we do have some of that coming from parents, not really understanding the rationale. I don't think deep cleaning is the only reason for having the middle of the week off. I think a lot of it has to do with letting everybody get a flavor for the new platforms for distance learning. So
That makes sense.
Patrice?
Yes.
Teresa, so
Well, Maria-
we're getting a lot of feedback. We're getting a lot of feedback from phone callers. So if you could just, if you're on your phone, if you could take a moment to mute your cell phone so we don't get too much feedback from you guys, that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Will Marie. Other comments? The issue of the budget impact, so we did talk about it at the beginning of the call, and the question was raised, should a board go to their municipality at this point and seek an additional appropriation, knowing that they will most likely need to do that before the end of the fiscal year? And there seemed to be consensus. Well, we felt that the best approach was to keep an open dialogue with the municipal officials so that they're aware of the costs that are necessary, that were not planned in the budget, that they're aware of the efforts of the board, superintendent, school business official to contain those costs to the greatest extent possible, but making the municipal officials aware that it is likely that at some later point you will need an additional appropriation. There is, of course, the hope that there will be additional state assistance that will support the board and municipality.
And of course, we're still waiting to hear what the federal government will do, if anything ever. Sorry, that was editorial.
Anyone else want to share? All right, I think then at this point, you will, assuming you have access to email, you should be getting a communication that will give the CABE cell phone numbers, the information on holding board meetings in person, and that we will definitely look forward to talking to you on next Thursday, and we'll be able to talk about all things involving sports. And I see there's yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, this is Chris. This is Chris in Reading. I was late joining. Nobody has power. Had a quick question about meeting remotely in a time of mass power outage and what best practices or FOI issues might be about that. Because we have business that needs to get done, but I don't want to deprive the public of access because nobody has electricity.
Right. You know, if you've got business that you have to get done and you have a quorum, then you do everything you can to make it accessible. But I think there's an understanding that in this time of crisis, it's not going to be the same access because of the lack of power. If you're able to record the meeting,
yeah, we can't. We might not be able to get to our website to post the notice. So if I post it on the door, that's not good enough either, I wouldn't think, because we have a website.
No.
We just can't access it.
Right. Yeah, okay, so the notice is a real problem. I'll try and give that a little thought, but I don't have a good solution off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think short of taking the website down entirely and pretending for a month like we don't have one, we need to find a way to get the notice of it.
Yeah, and that's probably not the best option right now either.
Not so much.
Hopefully we will soon have power and internet and other things so that we can do distance learning.
Fine, thank you. I have a strange question. When did you get your power back?
In Vermont?
Oh,
Are you asking me?
Friends from Unit 25 called and said, should we throw out everything in the freezer and refrigerator? Should I go over there and throw it out? Because I told them they were.
That is beyond our expertise at this point. We got power. I got power at our house 5:15. If you keep the refrigerator doors shut, and I'm not giving you legal advice or educational advice. Keep the freezer doors shut. By the way, CABE, from what I heard from Nick just now, will be getting our power back at 8:30. And I just wanted to mention, and I put it in the chat, Merrill put a couple of excellent articles from the Atlantic on the CABE board chair listserv. I think it was early this week. Really good on the importance of ventilation in particular. And I hope your schools are looking at that because that is a key to keeping the virus under control.
Yep. So just remember that
let us know.
Bob is not a public health official, so anything he says about whether your freezer items are safe to eat, you should take with a grain of salt.
Save the ice cream. That's my motto.
With that, we do know that at least half of the state CABE staff still does not have power. So it's commendable what everyone is doing around the state, and maybe this is just a test so that when we get to opening schools, we'll say, oh, well, this wasn't as hard. At least we have power in the building and we have internet and we can get fuel for the buses. With that, we will look forward to talking to you again next Thursday morning at 11 a.m. We hope you get your power soon, and please stay safe and healthy.